All right, guys. So I have Jen Anderson Miller back. We had a couple of conversations on this channel a few months ago. She is, of course, the CEO of Audio Socket, a great music licensing, outlet. They do custom work. They have a catalog. They do a lot of amazing things. But more specifically, I'm bringing Jen back onto the channel because she is about to release a new series of videos, podcasts about AI and AI music and the ethical and equitable solutions for how do we merge, evolve, and adapt to, and maybe even start to grow with this AI technology that in some ways feels like for sure a potential threat for our current way of life and our current business models, but might also open up new doors for possibilities. So Jen has been working diligently on this new series, which is basically just been released. So you guys can go check that out by clicking on the link below. You guys can see the series and the videos and the episodes that have been released. I was one of the guests on the series. I was really grateful to be one of the guests, but Jen talked to many different types of people as a result of this series. So Jen, welcome back. I want to ask you first and foremost, what is the series all about, and why did you dedicate a really good chunk of your year last year and even beginning of this year for this series? What is this really all about?
Yeah, thank you for having me back, by the way, and thanks for being on the series. Actually, Jesse was my first, so I kind of got my jitters out with him, and that was amazing. And so, thank you for that. So, last year, as with you, and the reason that you were tackling AI in your series as well, it was something that at the beginning of the year I wasn't hearing too much about, and by the end of Q1, it was coming up constantly, like on a daily basis. And so, what I sort of dismissed initially as it's going to take so long before it gets to the point where we have to pay attention became about 3 months. So by the end of Q2, I was feeling overwhelmed. I was receiving information daily about, what it was looking like and what it meant to artists and, all these different perspectives and lawsuits were popping up. And I just didn't know nearly enough. And so I was speaking with a colleague, and he just encouraged me to, when I'm talking to people and learning, potentially record it in interviews so that other people could benefit from that journey. And so that's exactly what I did. Starting in Q3, I had brought in a group that included yourself, some other artists who are really at the intersection of um, music and AI, and then artists that are living in an analog world. I brought in, attorneys. I brought in people that are working on the responsible and ethical side of AI. I brought in, AI experts and just effectively educated myself. The reason as well was because Audio Socket needed to make what we were going to do transparent. I think where the music industry has missed it occasionally in the past, as it relates to disruptive technologies, is waiting too long to respond and responding with lawsuits. I think where we can be proactive today is by being transparent about how we're managing AI within our ecosystems. And so we did that last week. We released our new artist agreements. And then also, I call it we're running into the fire cautiously. And that's setting up our terms for ourselves. So we're not waiting for our site to get scraped. We're not waiting, for lawsuits to unfold over the next 2 years. We are establishing terms for how we're going to manage AI, in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, because we in our conversation, I remember, you had asked me, how do I generally feel about all this? And it's like every emotion, like excitement and feeling like something's new and we're about to break through these new eras, but also just terrified of like, what does this really mean for us? If there can be an algorithm that can literally create extremely high quality production music, where does that leave us and how do we fit into a world like that? So it's a really confusing, strange, and exciting time that we're all in. So I'm really glad that you took the time to kind of just go get educated and bring all these really cool, interesting perspectives together, experts, and just different perspectives around the industry, the music industry. One thing that really stood out to me from the very beginning of our conversations, like last summer, was you said, I don't want to get caught up. This is what you said. You don't want to get caught up like we did with the Napster revolution, where we were sort of playing catch up and letting the tech industry dictate to us, what do we do about technology? The music industry and all the perspectives and the voices in our business should be in the conversation to begin with and not be reacting to it or waiting for a tech company to basically set the terms of how we're going to react and cooperate with AI technology. And I think that's great. That's us learning from history. That's us realizing that we don't want to just sue our way out of the problem. We really want to be a part of the solution, adapt, and wrap our arms around this technology, but in a way that feels like it's not replacing us completely and stealing all of our bread essentially. So I think it's really cool that you are taking the time to do this. So you've talked to a lot of different people, from publishers to labels to AI experts. For everybody, I want you guys all to definitely check on that link below and watch these interviews for yourself. But Jen, you've really got a great, front row seat to all this stuff. Are there maybe 3 big takeaways that you think of all of the interviews and conversations you've had that anybody who's kind of maybe in the dark about AI or maybe really concerned or scared about it should be aware of as a result of all your conversations? Maybe 3 big ones that'd be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of takeaways, which is exciting, I guess. Just in that there was some consistency across not only interviews but across sort of the verticals: technology, legal, ethical, artist. One is AI is here to stay. I know you say that a lot, and yeah, I mean that was definitely repeated. It's not going anywhere. And it's definitely going to be disrupting the music industry. It's going to disrupt every industry. I mean, I think one of the biggest takeaways was this is like the Industrial Revolution. This is not a small thing. This is a very, very material thing that is going to change the way that people do everything for the rest of our lives. So that was consistent. The level of impact was definitely something that everybody reinforced. Everybody reinforced that human-made art is going to be really the new curation. I mean, so I think not a single person felt like humans were going to go away. And, the artists that I had on that are, one of them absolutely lives in an analog world, and he feels like this is going to put him in an even better place of just his craft and what is human and what is a connection to the art, because these are experiences that we live. So I think there was, a general consensus that more instrumentally led music that is by nature probably written by computers already, that's really going to be an area that it will be impacted. We've already seen that, now. But as it relates to, really kind of niche human-made music, lyrical content, music with real instruments, that will become something that people really desire and crave, in the same way that after COVID, we're seeing concerts. I think we thought that was going to be a thing of the past, and now they're bigger than ever. We do crave human anything, to be honest. So, the feeling that human-made art is very definitely not going anywhere either is another big one. And yeah, I'm trying to think of the third. I think the third would probably be that as I found less fear. In fact, we did 2 artist meetings where we invited all of our artists to attend. It was less about fear. Definitely some people just indifferent, but there's as much excitement about AI as there is fear about AI. I think generative AI has been kind of this hairy beast that's super scary, and it will have impact. But there are so many, many incredible things that are optimizing workflows, and incredible things that are just going to, help us to master, help us to stem, help us to rethink a direction for a song. Maybe we have 20 options now that would have taken us 20 days in the past, and we can live all 20 options, in the course of an hour or a single day. So there were a lot of people that were really excited about the things that are going to come as well, including new music models that will enable, through generative capabilities, people to iterate, but also technologies to track iterations and really just help proliferate the monetization for that creator, as well as just future generations being able to do cool stuff with it. So yeah, I'd say those are the 3.
I love that. And it's really good to hear that a lot of people are finding a lot of optimism and excitement for it. I'm really going to dive into your personal point of view right now. After learning all of this stuff, talking to everybody, talking to artists, how optimistic are you that this is going to actually be an additive technology to the music industry as a whole, meaning that as a result of AI, more income will get generated, more music will be consumed, more pathways for monetizing your music will be created for human beings. How optimistic are you that the music industry as a whole will actually grow overall as a result of this, even though there might be some casualties along the way? What's your thought on that right now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the music industry is going to continue on its growth trajectory, and just the digitization of everything is going to ensure that. Um, using our last week's artist meeting as an example, we basically met for the first half hour and I just sort of talked about what informed the decision that we made in terms of the contracts and how we were approaching AI. And then people stayed on. I just welcomed everybody to stay on if they wanted to ask more questions. And it really ended up being a lot of people who were diving in, and they were so excited to share their experiences. They were so excited to talk about how much more effective they are with their time, about how much this has empowered and enabled creativity on new levels. So I really do think that, again, it's here to stay. As you've said, let's run into the fire cautiously. Definitely our approach. I think there's a really important consideration, which is the artist always has to be giving permission as it relates to generative uses. But I think this is going to help proliferate, and I think it will help set, as one person I interviewed said, the robots, to differentiate what is human-made art and what is robotic-made art. But he very much said at the end, if I learn something from the robots, I'm going to embrace the robots, and they're going to be, become part of my human-made workflow. So I
Awesome.
think it'll be a net positive, and we just have to be cautious about the ways that we're making our music available.
Now let's jump into that side of it. So, what is giving you concern about the future? Um, what are sort of the immediate threats? We talked about, instrumental stock music essentially being probably one of the first casualties potentially. We're kind of seeing that sort of edge its way into our marketplace. What other concerns should we have? And is there anything that we can do now? Maybe a part of your AI series is addressing these. What can we start to do now or think about now to mitigate some of these potential threats to our income streams?
I'm going to answer the last part first and say that I think to mitigate, as I mentioned, taking a stance, shaping the narrative, not sort of being beholden to the narrative, not kind of waiting for lawsuits to play themselves out, and technologies have already been built, but being very proactive and taking a transparent for your artists and proactive stance in shaping the terms. So that's exactly what we just did. I think the more music companies that jump in and they say, here's how we're going to manage AI on our terms, I think the better. I think that's the way that we mitigate risk. We are at the table. And that was part of this series, was talking to AI innovators. How are they getting, feedback? Like, what is their kind of feedback cycle to ensure that creators are part of this process and the ethical side of approaching AI? As far as risks, I mean, I think it's playing out on a global scale, and that's really things like fraud, impersonation, people taking things without asking, and creating something that is good and stands up against competitively you. Um, I think right now is like the Wild West is moving much faster than it did when music was digitized. I do think right now, and we just saw it yesterday with the letter with Sam Altman, OpenAI, and a bunch of the other big global media and global technology companies jumping on board to say ethical, responsible ways to proceed in AI. I think we're going to see that be a big, big, big push, where AI companies are working to be ethical and responsible. And that will involve the conversations that I'm talking about, where, in our case, rights holders are at the table. They are shaping the terms. There is open discussion happening, but there's always bad players and bad actors. And I think a lot has already happened that, is going to be unfolded in front of us right now. So it's going to be a period of probably pain for certain niches of the music industry as people figure out where is their place in this new AI ecosystem. But I am hopeful that we'll be moving in the right direction. And with the AI clauses we set up, one of the things that we're doing is really an alternative to what, there's the debate about whether AI training should fall under fair use. And I don't believe that, a 50-year-old doctrine could actually be the doctrine that tells us this is fair use. I think that's an antiquated doctrine and not applicable to AI training models. But I do think that one of the arguments is, small startups and innovators need to have access to train their models. So as it relates to traditional training, which is operating efficiencies, more sort of just things that are helping the industry. We are moving forward in those ways to support startups and innovation for tools that are going to help the industry. Generative is something that will all be permission-based and won't be something we're looking to allow them to train on for the purpose of replacing.
Great. Well, let's get into your new clauses. You decided to start updating your contracts with your composers and producers at AudioSocket. What are these new clauses about? What do they specifically, either prohibit or allow, or what do they clarify for your artists and composers? Let's just jump into that. What are you now adding? Because I think if anybody else is watching this that might be a library owner and they're obviously looking at AI and wondering what kind of moves should I be making, you might be a sort of a thought leader in this position to maybe help other people understand how to navigate these waters. So what are these new clauses you're including?
Yeah, so we included a whole section on AI. I wanted to make sure that our artists knew right out the gate, so our contracts are effective April 1st, exactly how we'd be handling AI. So we define in our agreement traditional AI versus generative AI. Again, traditional is something that is for things like similarity searching or playlist development or mastering or stemming, these things that are actually really helpful to artists and workflows and just optimize efficiencies and will benefit the industry. With those, that is included. We are doing that work, and that's part of the contract. So it basically says traditional AI is something that we will support, and then with that, we will support startups as well. And that's really far more affordable modeling for startups so that it doesn't create a situation where only the tech giants can get into this game. I think innovation is stifled if it's too expensive for startups to innovate. So we are taking a startup-friendly model. It's the same thing as like user-generated content. We had a $2 license available on our storefront for years and years because people who are just creating a home video and putting it, online can't afford $1,000 license. So we're approaching, startup innovation in the same capacity. And then as it relates to generative, it is all permission based. So we will never enter into generative AI opportunities with our artists' music for the purpose of training to compete, meaning if they're looking to replace the work that we do, that is not interesting to us. Our music is exceptional. I mean, I think our artists are absolutely amazing at what they do. And I'm not interested in robots doing what they do. But where it relates to, we've heard of a lot of really fun, cool new models that quite honestly, I would call like Gen A, Gen Z models. They're just engaging models. They're creative models. They're really neat. And I know my kids have, they love some of the concepts that are coming up. Those models will be presented to our artists. They will effectively indicate whether they want to be part of a licensing model or sort of a collective licensing engagement, but they will always be able to give their permission or exclude their music from those opportunities.
Right. Very, very cool. I like how clear all that is too, to let everybody know. So I've got a question for you. This was something that came up during actually Sam Altman's congressional testimony when I think it was Senator Blackburn asked him, like, are you scrubbing copyrighted music and are you training off of copyrighted music because she was able, or somebody she knew was able to basically create like a Garth Brooks style song. And it was like, obviously you trained off of Garth Brooks music. I don't think he got a cut of that. I don't think he gave you permission for that. And he really, Sam dodged that question. He did not say, yes, we did. He just said, it was never commercially available and it was no big deal. And we sort of didn't, it's gone now. It's not even available anymore. I think to me, the writing was on the wall that, yeah, he probably did. What are your thoughts in terms of, even though you would have this agreement with your producers to say, hey, we're not letting any AI companies come and train off of our music. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing to have all your music available online in an open catalog for the internet to go have access to. And I was talking to one of these data scientists recently, and he confirmed that Spotify, you don't need a full track to train off of the song. You can basically get the 30-second snippet that each song on Spotify has its own unique URL. You could get a computer to scan all of those and train off of 30 seconds of every piece of song and never have to ask permission for anything, even though somebody says, no, you have to ask me permission. So what are your thoughts on basically maybe having libraries and publishers lock things down more in terms of having more of a password protected catalog that only your clients get access to and the rest of the internet? Because right now, from my experience with a lot of production music libraries, I'd say like 80 to 90% of them are just open. Like you can just go look at their entire catalog. It's just there, and every track has its own URL. And if you had an unscrupulous, AI company, they could just go take it all. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you guys think you're going to lock things down, or what concerns do you have around that?
That's funny that this hasn't come up before. It has come up that this has already happened at great scale. So I don't think it's probably surprising to hear me say, and I will just, since I don't know it firsthand, I will just say, I have heard that this has been done at scale already, and really it's too late. And that's been said across many, many of the interviews and things that I've read and watched. I don't, I think AI is going to get to where it is going to get to with or without AudioSocket specifically. I'm not going to do things to specifically go and make this catalog available for purposes of kind of competing. But I don't know that, I guess I think especially again with the push on responsible and ethical AI, there are going to be guardrails in place near term that are going to say, you have to show us how you trained. And I think that is sort of like addressing the root of the problem is better than sort of preparing for what may come, because I think what may come has come. And I think that there is going to be a lot of legislation coming that's going to require proof. I don't know that it's proof of concept, proof of or source of, where's your source of truth, let's say. I think any of those models that would launch in a truly harmful way today would have to be done by huge companies that know that they can't use material that was scraped at some point. So today, right now, I'm not looking to lock it all down. I just think if people want to get at something in the same capacity as the hacks we hear on the biggest of, global companies being hacked, they're going to do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the wild west of the internet we're in. And yeah, I've agreed with you there that I think it should be called like a show your work law, which is that if there's any model out there coming out for a commercial release, and specifically music, but you could do this across the board, there should be a sort of, before you do that, there needs to be some sort of a third-party audit of where did you get, and there should have been money exchanged for this data, right? Unless it was royalty-free and in the public domain. You should have receipts for what you paid for and who you paid for training your data and training your model essentially on the music that was there. And so I think from what I saw, Google and Meta were both doing that with the Pond5 and a couple of other stock sites. They were definitely paying them to do those kind of things. So I think they now, were they paying for all of their training all the way through? Yeah, that's where it's like, I don't know. That's where those things kind of get a little bit murky, but we'll see. I mean, we're still obviously in the middle of this revolution. I have seen these models go from really not that great, but able to make something that sounds kind of like music to now 48K, 24-bit, sounding pretty high fidelity CD quality, little snippets of music that they're starting to do. And my anticipation is this year, you'll probably by the end of the year have a model that can create a cohesive piece of 2 to 3 minute long music that actually stays within its own creative juice. Right now it'll maybe go there for like 4 bars, 8 bars, and then it kind of just goes on a tangent and it sort of forgets what it was trying to do in the beginning. But I think that one way or another can be solved with technology. So that's what's going to be interesting to see at the end of this year, how that's going to play out. So, but Jen, thank you so much for your time today and for obviously putting together the series. And again, once again, guys, go click on that link below. You can get access to those episodes as they're getting released. Get yourself educated. From the very beginning of this, I think Jen and I both had the same philosophy of like, yeah, it's scary, yeah, it's uncertain, but keep open to it. Keep curious about it. And definitely, as she's been saying, and she's been really an advocate for a lot of us. And thank you for that, Jen. Is have your voice heard. Don't be a passive bystander. Don't be sitting there going like, well, they're just going to screw us over anyways, because musicians always get screwed over. Yes, if you have that idea and you have that attitude and you don't make yourself heard, and you definitely don't have these conversations with your publishers and your music libraries, absolutely, they're going to take the role and they're going to take the lead, and whatever they decide is kind of what we'll just have to go through. So we appreciate you, Jen, just from all of us here in our community. Thank you for being one of the few to speak out for us and on our behalf and really look out for us. It's really, really cool that you're doing this.
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, you as well. I think we're both on the same mission, so hopefully we'll be successful. And yeah, and I mean, I'd love to see, and I think we will see alliances popping up where artists, creator communities are working with innovators, tech communities. So I'm very optimistic.
Awesome. Me too. We'll see where the future takes us. Thank you so much, Jen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.